Well, I would hope that Jennifer would have helped,
Exactly.
tame a
Yes.
lot
If
of
she
that.
stuck, if she stuck with him,
Do you think she would have?
I wouldn't.
Do you think that was I wouldn't have.
Kane gave me 15 minutes when I got home to lose McKay or lose her
That's
forever.
right.
So
Snapping your fingers and pointing. That's right.
that was it. I had to stop the snapping. Yeah, I that relationship was so funny because I, of course, loved it because Jewel State. Talk about
Right.
Science fiction like
Icon.
Just oh my god. Firefly was still to this day. No offense to Stargate, still I think one of the most effective modern science fictions I've ever seen. I couldn't get over it. The character development, everything. It was gorgeous, and of course, so is she. But I definitely struggled with the romance stuff. I find it. I feel like it's again. It sort of harkens back to the 80s, 90s television, doesn't it? Where people have to partner up, and And I feel like the wonderful nature of what could happen is always marred by what does happen, if that makes sense. So I feel that the sexual tension is much more fun in a way than the actual getting together thing. So.
Speaking of sexual attention, kind of tangentially related, Marita wanted to know who was the smartest, McKay or Carter?
I know what I would say, but I also know what McKay would say as well. McKay obviously felt. I think McKay felt threatened by Carter.
Oh, unquestionably.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I don't know. I think definitely McKay.
Well,
I can't bring myself to actually say it.
The argument that I always make is that we as humans, we only have so much bandwidth.
Yeah.
And Sam had a lot of focuses in a lot of other areas too, and was arguably much more human in terms of like her human. So I think McKay was just a lot more raw data. And it had more raw data to just mine from, and that's what his focus was. So, all things being equal, I would probably think that McKay is smarter. But, if we're talking but we're not like a better human. That's the difference.
Certainly not.
So.
Yeah, I think, the other thing is I think, I would talk for 3 pages about stuff that then Shepard could reduce to a couple of sentences or a grunt. You know what I mean? So I feel like there's who's smarter at what? You know what I mean? Like I feel like we all, one of the beauties of Stargate, both SG-1 and Atlantis. I can't speak too much to Universe because I didn't watch as much of it, but I felt like they, we each had our niche. That was the beauty of it. Everyone had the areas of expertise, and they crossed over in places, but I felt there was the competition between, I think, who's smarter. I think we pushed each other to be smarter.
Yeah,
I think that's
true too.
The beauty of the competition. I think that element is, and it's so true because that's such a nerdy thing to do. Like no one wants to be wrong. Everyone wants to be the smartest kid in the class, but
or at least respected.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
and that was the wonderful thing about McKay's sort of travels through Stargate was that he came in as a guest star who was just odious to some extent.
This really sucks.
Basically, and then they had to sort of, we sort of got to explain why he was like that.
Right. Exactly.
I loved that. I thought that was just so clever the way they did it. And then showing up on SGU, I was worried about how I was going to work in that world because it was such a serious science fiction world. And again, I thought Brad just did a beautiful job of managing to keep McKay, but take away, just maybe harden the edges a bit again, so that we could get so he would fit in this world. You know what I mean? So he didn't just show up and start looking like a clown, in this.
No. Yeah, it has to fit. Claire wanted to know the whole the shrine scene with Shepard and McKay on the pier was heartwarming and lovely. One of my favorite scenes from the show as well.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it?
The last
I loved our stuff.
It was terrific. How you guys were really, I know Joe was really trucking them down. The last line, "You're a good friend, Arthur." Was that improv or was that written by Brad?
We did a bunch of different ones. I'm pretty sure there was. I think if it wasn't Arthur, it was a different name. I think it was definitely scripted, but we would every time we did it, we would try to come up with different names, basically to get each other to laugh. So there were a number of ones I think that were a little less user friendly than Arthur, I'm sure, that came up. Yeah. It's funny. There was every time we did scenes together, Joe would sort of turn to me and go like, "They should do more of these." I'd be like, "Yeah, totally," because you know what I need is more freaking talking. But it was just, yeah, I loved that interaction because there was, McKay had such a man crush on Shepard. Like he so wanted to be that
he
guy.
He idolized him. You know.
Yeah, absolutely idolized him. I mean, he in his head, I think McKay saw himself with that hair and the guns and the he thought. I think he thought that eventually he was going to get there. So.
The comparison is often made that Carson and Rodney were probably the best of friends. I would argue that Rodney and Shepard were best friends. They were pretty tight.
I go Rodney and Shepard too. I feel like because I felt like. McKay had this wonderful sort of dismissiveness of sort of biology and medicine. But I feel like Beckett was probably his best friend, but in a weird way, in that way that friendship is, you don't sort of realize that.
Yeah.
I think McKay would still consider Shepard his best friend because that's where he saw himself. Right.
In terms of like where you're striving for. Absolutely.
Yeah. Because your best friend, you just you basically take your best friend for granted anyways, because he's your best friend. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's that. So I feel like there was definitely that there. And also I think Beckett showed weakness and McKay never understood that. I think that was fair. That there was a lack of respect, I think, of that aspect of Beckett, you know what I mean?
Yeah, a vulnerability that McKay was like, come on, man.
Yeah, and McKay had the same vulnerability. He just was never going to admit it.
That's the distinction.
Yeah.
Chris wanted to know, is there anything you would change or add from your time on the show? You've been rewatching these episodes with the family. I mean, anything that you look back, you're like, you know what? Wish I could have done that differently. Or you know what? Knowing what I know now with how we've gone, forward in time, this would have been cool.
Well, look, the one that I really feel like I missed out on was the evil McKay. I really, I just assumed that at some point an evil McKay was going to show up. You know what I mean? Like, it just seems like this perfect like nemesis sort of thing. But so that I'd love to have seen something like that.
To have played him funny evil or like serious evil.
Or like serious evil, like get to do some like serious evil, because like McKay, a truly evil McKay, would be. He's like the master. Like you get to basically that's what I think. I just want to play the master from Doctor Who. But the idea that someone in an alternative universe who has all of those skills and disregard and misunderstanding of social cues and stuff, he could very well become a psychopath, right? Mm-hmm. So I think there's a lot of fun stuff there to work with, and there's a neat dynamic there because you go like, if he shows up and the psycho McKay is more successful and more attractive and more, so it's like the Rod and Rodney if Rod wasn't such a fantastic guy, you know what I mean? I just think there's so much interesting stuff there. I also wish there was more Kate. Honestly, I wish there was more Jeannie stuff.
Thank you for watching this clip from Dial the Gate. If you enjoyed the video, please consider giving us a thumbs up with that like button. It will encourage the algorithm to show this to other Stargate fans. Also, please consider sending this to a fellow Stargate friend. I also want to invite you to subscribe to future episodes right here on YouTube. We are a live show, so changes are likely to happen all the time. And if you plan on joining us live, you'll want to be the first to know. Be sure to visit dialthegate.com for the complete guest schedule so you'll know when to join us and ask your very own questions to our guests. See you on the other side.